Hi guys, it's another day, it's another Friday, 8 p.m. and the Good Citizen Radio Show. You're listening to your hostess, Bekeme. I'm being reminded to say I'm the hostess with the mostest, but hey, yeah, you know that's what it is. The Good Citizen Radio Show is brought to you by CSR in Action, and it's nicely, thankfully funded by ACT Foundation, aka ACT Foundation, which is a grant-making organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working in health, environment, entrepreneurship, and leadership to address the various challenges that we still, unfortunately, have across the continent. And you know why they sponsor us? Our focus is on leadership. We want to get every Nigerian thinking in the way that we ought to think. We want us to take our duties and responsibilities as citizens very, very, very seriously. And that's why we do this show every day. And I can assure you that it's been very, very encouraging. The number of listeners that we have increased week on week. And, apparently we have over 600,000 listeners. So we want to thank you all. Thank you for making this show happen. Thank you for our constant callers. It's amazing. Yes, thank you. It's amazing having you listening, and more and more people stop me on the streets and say, oh, I listened to your show last week, it was touching and all of that. And if you remember, we had Kira on the show last week. Kira, he watched who rescued the emaciated woman who was being videoed at Aja, and every time I think of her courage, I still have goosebumps. I don't know if it's something like, I'm courageous in other ways, but in that way, it's been very encouraging. Now, ACT Foundation's 2020 grant cycle is actually still open. And applications have been extended to the 4th of November 2019. Just visit actrust.foundation.org/2020_grant_advert.php to register. And I think I announced this last week, but I'm going to say it again. We're having our annual conference. I'm very excited. In November, this month, 22nd of November 2019, we're hosting our annual Sustainability in Extractive Industries Conference, and it's themed Community Engagement, a Panacea for Peace in Extractive Operations. We're having it here in Lagos. Why? Because the conference is about oil and gas and mining, and how we can make it work for us, how we can make it work for the key stakeholders, the communities, the business, government, and national economy. And we know that Lagos is now an oil-producing state, right? Lagos is an oil-producing state now, and we're having the conference this year here because we have key stakeholders here, and we're hoping to move this around every year in order that the key stakeholders that we need in our meetings get to hear about this. Speaking of communities, that's what our topic for today is, host communities. But before I go into that, let me also excitedly tell you that we're having the region's first ever Community and Human Rights Awards. Yes, we're actually having the first one again this year, and I look forward to it being really exciting. The CAR Awards, as we've called it, Community and Human Rights, pronounced CAR Awards, have very exciting categories. We have the Ken Saro-Wiwa Environmental Management Award. We have the MKO Abiola Community Engagement Award. We have the Hajia Gambo Sawaba Community Impact Award. We have the Fumilayo Ransom Kuti Human Rights Award. We have the Apostle Hayford Alile Humanitarian Award. We have the Sir Amadou Bello Award for Leadership. And then we have the Josephine and Kemdalim Bertram Ekenanye Equal Rights Award. Now, you can vote for any company or anybody that you think deserves to win this award. It is very transparent, it's a transparent process. So if you did vote and you didn't see your preferred choice, or rather, if you didn't nominate and you didn't see your preferred choice at some point, don't try to blame anybody. Don't say, don't get on it's Nigeria, they do what they like, and then when you see the results, you now say, I said so. Well, you didn't say so. So you can do something about it. You can visit www.csr-in-action.org/CTEI, SITEI /CAR Awards. CAR again is CAHR Awards, or short form bit.ly/CAR Awards /CAHR Awards. Nominations end on Tuesday, and voting proper begins at midnight on Wednesday. So I was looking through social media recently, and something struck me. Some lady had put up this picture. I don't think it was proper social media because I usually don't have time for that. But it must have been maybe a WhatsApp picture. And this lady had put up a picture that described tradition as peer pressure from one's ancestors. Tradition defined as peer pressure from one's ancestors. And I thought about it, and I didn't quite agree. I mean, there's some things that you look on and you say, well, maybe people never really asked questions why they carried on with it. But then there's some things you look at and you know that, traditions are there for sanity's sake. It's just like the law. It helps to keep us guided. And, I thought about this as I was preparing for this show, because I thought, you know what? The guys who are the gatekeepers of tradition are typically our host communities. They're the ones at home who have not come to the city and forgotten ourselves and thought that we're now fully global citizens without roots, because we must remember where we come from every time. Now, we are sort of going to go businessy on you today because, we have quite a wide range of people who listen to this show. And one of the things that we want to do is to mainstream the conversation around inclusiveness in community engagement, okay? Inclusiveness, because that's one of the challenges that we have as a country today. So every time you meet a business person, like I met the first chairman of Shell in Nigeria in 2009. And I mean, he's an older man now, and he was saying to me, some of the challenges that we had as a business was that we didn't take our time to get to know the communities well. We met some people who said they were community leaders, and we sorted them out. And the sad thing is that this is what happens even till date. We have, since I'm telling you all of these fantastic new things we do, or we've done in recent times, we have this new standards that we just developed to guide companies on how to engage communities. It's called the Community Engagement Standards. It's the first again in the region. You guys need to be clapping for us wherever you are. The CSR in Action staff are just awesome. Now, when we were doing this, we went to nine states. They produce oil and they have natural resources such as oil and gas, and then they have all the other iron ore, bitumen, and all of these things. And we talked to various community members. And the interesting thing we found is that the same thing that he said they had a challenge with, Sir Macmillan Stewart is his name, the same problems that he says business faced as a result of the approach to engagement is actually the same challenges that they have today. Why? Because businesses still haven't changed their approach. They're still carrying on business the same way that they carried on before. So today we're going to be looking at core strategies. So in Nigeria today, companies in the extractive industries have recorded less than inspiring results in the area of community engagement. Conflict is high in different parts of the country as a result of different things. environmental degradation, lack of progress, even though you see, probably the company doing well. And oftentimes it's not because the company wants to be like that. It's often because I think that companies can get so big and, usually there's no direct feedback to the top management. And so, people just carry on. And then sometimes people just don't even know what to do. And so this community engagement then becomes a crucial tool. It's just thinking about your community now. If you lived in a plush area, as we have now in Lekki, so you go down Lekki and you see really, 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 really nice estates. And just behind the estates, you have, a number of shanty towns. You have, houses built out of wood. You have houses built out of nylon. You have all of these things. And if you are your neighbor's keeper, then, you feel like you have some sort of responsibility. Now, we've touched this before and somebody was like, oh, you're shaking tables. No, they should be relocated and all of that. But however, for as long as you have less than capable neighbors, there is a universal feeling that there should be some level of responsibility, that you should be concerned about how they fare. And this is how it is when it comes to business. And, the conversation that we constantly have with businesses is, how can you be a good neighbor? And if you look at it all over the world, it's the same thing. Because, we tend to complain here in Nigeria that, government is leaving our responsibilities to us and all of that. And that may well be that, government is actually abdicating some responsibility. But if you look at the advanced countries, when they passed through their stages of industrialization, it was led by business. And the businesses that were smart enough to tap into this, to prepare for this, are the businesses that reaped the reward for it. So eventually people had a good impression of the business. They were happy. Every time they heard the business's name, they were happy. Every time they thought about the business, they were happy. Or if you then look at it from the flip side and you look at a Nike situation and the sweatshops that you hear about, many people, as people become more aware, they start thinking, I need to associate with a business that thinks right. And so when you had that happen, you had people saying, you know what, a company that doesn't care about the way that it treats the people who work with them, if you say that, outsource it to China, then your Chinese factory should care about its communities. They shouldn't use children and all of that. So people are thinking in that manner. People are thinking, how can businesses work? And I can assure any business person listening today that if you engage your communities better, then you have more sustainable outcomes, you have more sustainable processes, you have more sustainable relationships, your decision making is better, and all of that. And, implementation becomes more effective. I know that community engagement can be complex and may require dedicated resources such as time, funding, and people with necessary skills. But I do believe that with, when planned well, people can actually be your allies. Now, before we continue that conversation, let me remind you of the number to call. It's 0700 93 93 93. Again, it's 0700 93 93 93. Let us know what you think, but we'll go on a short break and we'll be right back to continue the conversation.
The Aspire Coronation Trust, ACT Foundation, is a non-profit organization established to help local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address the challenges and associated vulnerabilities across Africa. At ACT Foundation, our interventions are focused on 4 key areas, which are health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. At ACT Foundation, we believe that together we can make a difference. So, let's come together to make the positive social impact we desire in our world.
Hi Hey guys, you're back on the Good Citizen Radio Show, and we've been talking about community engagement, as you know, or rather, we've been talking about strategies for effective community engagement. If you have any thoughts on this, you can call us on 0700 93 93 93. Again, is 0700 93 93 93. You can send us messages on our social media at Good Citizen NG, and you can send us WhatsApp messages on 0906 263 263 263. 0906 263 4111. 0906 263 4111. Okay, so we're talking about that, and I think that, you know, one of the things that businesses must do must be to communicate effectively. And the communication style and strategy really depends on who you're dealing with. Don't do it like my father. My father would say then, you know, that because my father loves big Oyibo, and he'd be like, well, when I'm talking to the village people, they should understand by the way that I'm gesticulating, you know. But no, oftentimes that doesn't always work out. Sometimes they're lucky enough to do to be like Icheku. But who remembers Ichoku? Are there any older people watching or listening right now? Ichoku, who remembers Ichoku? About the Nigerian, the court. It was this court setting then. It was a drama when I was growing up. And there was this purported white man who he was a judge of a local court, and he had a Nigerian interpreter. And he would say something, and the Nigerian interpreter would interpret it elsewhere. He would say, so people would bring disputes, and they would say, Onyo Yibo, this is what's happened. Onyo Yibo being, you know, white man, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And Ichoku would say, and then the white man would turn to his interpreter, who I believe who was Ichoku, and he'd say, what did they say? And he'd say, hey, they say, white man, that this thing you are saying does not make sense. That you should carry yourself and go back to England. And, you know, he would say something back, and then this interpreter would tell the other people something else. And you can understand that every time this court almost ended in chaos. And what I'm trying to say in essence is every time that you have people that you need to communicate with, you have to be sure that you're speaking in what, you know, say in their love language, in a way that they would understand. And every time that you have to do this, you also have to think about deepening the conversation. Don't go into, and I'm speaking to guys who go around building houses and everything. You know, one of the MDs of an agency in Lagos died a couple of years ago, you know, as a result of street clashes. So when you think about these things, or rather as a result of land ownership and upset youth and everything. So when you think about these things, don't think about it as something that happens in remote areas. It could be that you just want to build a new estate somewhere down Ekpe, or you know, your company wants to do something, you know, in a newer community, masts or whatever. And, you know, they just need to be talked to. And what tends to happen is that business persons think that they're villagers, they don't know anything, but they do know something, and they want to be respected. They want to be taken seriously. So you have to have those conversations, deeper conversations, and you have to talk to as many people as you can. Talk to the different stakeholder groups that they are. Talk to the women. Talk to the youth. Talk to all of these people, because they are the people who would have your back. There's something called social license to operate. Those are the people who would have your back when the ST hits the fan. They would have your back. They would be like, no, these guys have done this. And the truth is that when you have these conversations, they also you also know what they actually need, and you do the right thing. Because every time I hear businesses say, oh, I went to that community and they didn't have water, and I built a borehole. First of all, that's a bit outdated now. Secondly, it just because they don't have a, in quote, modern source of water means that they want a borehole. I'll give you an example. I heard of a community company relationship where the company decided these guys don't have water, let's build some boreholes. And they dug some boreholes, and the community never used it. They did the whole commissioning, called everybody, blah, blah, blah. And these guys never used it. Why? They preferred to go to the stream to fetch water. Yes, they prefer to do that. And so what many companies are doing is, so you have this conversation and then you go and you think, okay, since these guys, and they go to the stream to fetch water, not because they necessarily want the harder way of throwing the bucket in and carrying water that's not potable, but because that was an opportunity to commune with each other, to like discuss and catch up on the day or the week's gossip and all of that. And what many smart businesses are doing are that they're setting up water systems that, get directly from the stream and give the people the opportunity to still come to the stream and still have the communion and still get potable water. Okay? So that's very important, having those deeper relationships. And then, being transparent and credible and legitimate is also another thing that you must do in whatever situation you find yourself. You must do that, whether your community is your colleague at work, because sometimes that's your community. Those are the people that you have to deal with every day. You have to be able to realize where power lies. You have to be able to give people their respect. You have to be sincere in the way that you communicate, and you have to establish clear two-way mechanisms. Every time there's a grievance, you need to be able to address it all the way till the end. You have to make sure that it's timely. Hello? So we've lost that call. So you have to make sure that any communication that needs to happen is timely as well. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Ndidi. Good evening. The soon-to-be entrepreneur. How's it going?
I'm not started yet.
I said soon-to-be now.
Sorry?
I said, that's why I said soon-to-be.
Yes, yes. Happy new month to you. How are you?
Same to you. Everything is just fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm getting better. A little bit under the weather, but I'm getting better in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Yeah. Coming to what you were saying, being inclusive is very, very important in whatever one is doing. Even that person's benefit.
Yes.
Not just for the benefit of the other, even for the person's benefit. I give you an experience.
Yes.
There was a time we wanted to relocate. So we got a particular place. The agent took us to a particular place. And we kind of liked the place. And we were about paying for the place. Then somebody that lived there looked at us and was like, the person just left what he was doing and just followed us to somewhere that the agents wouldn't see him. And he came to us and he told us, please, my sister, I can see you. You don't deserve to live in this kind of place. And he told me so many things about the place and said I should please
make sure you do
that up and not pay for it. And he said I shouldn't expose. I shouldn't say he told me or anything. Just use wisdom and I'm telling you, my sister, he saved us from trauma.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, that's amazing. Just because you understand, the guy looked at us and we got in there, we greeted everybody. We're not like walk past somebody.
Absolutely. I was going to wonder how come he did that, because that's what tends to happen. People just feel like I'm talking to an agent, and you don't try to get to know people around you.
Yes, just say hello, hi. Even if it's a little boy you meet, hi boy, how you move on. That was what saved us. If we hadn't related with anybody around there, did you know that we would have been living in that traumatic compound?
Yes.
But God just saved us and used that person to save it because of our little just good morning, good afternoon.
Yes. Thank you.
And nothing more.
As
so it's
usual.
very, very important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that fantastic example, indeed, as usual. Yeah, so, it just reminds me of the fact that just because one person, needs something from a particular community, that there is the responsibility to be open and transparent and credible resides only with that person. So I'll go back to the agent, for instance. The agent had the responsibility of being transparent enough to say, okay, this is what typically happens in this situation. I know some people at home are laughing like, hey, this girl's talking like she doesn't live in Nigeria, but that's the truth. Okay, so you know that this house, just because you want to make a quick buck, you want to make a commission, you take somebody who managed to piece together their hard-earned money and you take them to a place that's not good enough for them. And we have lots of those situations around here in Lekki, like one of the housing that we got for staff near us. And we said, are you sure? They said, oh, it's the best house. And this was during the dry season. Oh, this house is good. You would not believe that by the time it started raining, oh my goodness, like people couldn't sleep in the place. The ground would fill with water, and I think the water was coming from inside the ground. So it's not like the front door. It's coming from inside the ground, and then things will start shocking. And then the good deed you did would not seem like a bad thing, like you went and killed people's children, you went and electrocuted them. You know, so there's that responsibility on that third party as well to make it happen. And then there's a responsibility on, you know, the neighbors, the people in that community. Because I also remember in this situation and a recent situation with my driver, we asked people around, how is this place? And in his own case, he's very pained. I only noticed because he had come into work and his face would be bloated. He wouldn't have slept well. I kept on pressing, what is wrong with you? You're looking stressed out. And then he told me, the place that I'm living in, which I contributed to, we're having problems. There's always water in my room. And then said, I asked everybody. But guess what? They thought since they were suffering it, he needed to come and join them in the suffering. That's terrible. So he did ask, and I know that he's nice and polite, and they still refused to tell him. So it's the response. The onus is not just on you who needs something from the particular community. The onus is also on the other people that you have to engage, any third party and the community people themselves. And that's also, some of the challenges that we have. There is a challenge with sincerity on the part of some community members that has led to the conflict that we have had in our society today. Now, so that's some of the challenges that we've had in our society today, as I was saying, and that's something that we really need to change, because we cannot have, and the challenge that I hear people say is, I have done my best, I've talked to these people, but they're not serious. So you cannot come forward and say this person was not a certain way to me because they didn't do whatever with me. So I want you guys to hold it in one hand, as we say in Nigeria. And we'll come back next week and continue this topic, because this is a very broad topic, okay? It's a very broad topic. And thank you, Ndidi, for, as usual, bringing it back down to home and making it relatable to everyone. We're going to remind you that you can continue this conversation at Good Citizen NG on our social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you're going to encourage me to be better at this thing. So you're going to send me messages at Bekemeo, Bekemeo, on any of these social media handles as well. Just keep the feedback coming. We'd like to hear more from you. If you want to participate in the show in some way, please reach out to us. Thank you for listening to the show. My name is Bekeme. I'm your host. Listening to this show every Friday at 8 p.m. on Inspiration FM, the #1 family radio station. The show is brought to you by CSR in Action and is sponsored by ACT Foundation. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.